Alright guys, this video is going to be very similar to the one that I made yesterday about the wide receivers. I went through, got the top 5 running backs. I think there's a consensus top 5, and nobody really comes close to the top 5 running backs in this class. I know some people like to have A.J. Dillon up there. I know some people, everyone has their favorite sleeper. But if you look at consensus rankings, if you look at consensus mocks, there's a clear top 5 and no running backs really falling past there or sliding in there. Top 5 is obviously, in no particular order, Deandre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, and J.K. Dobbins. Now, all these running backs have strengths, all these running backs have weaknesses, and none of these running backs are really foolproof. I mean, they check a lot of boxes, and I know we're really excited. I'm especially excited about Jonathan Taylor and Deandre Swift, but every single running back has question marks, and that's going to really kind of determine how I evaluate these potential landing spots and kind of determine how I view these running backs fitting in with these different offenses. So if you didn't watch yesterday's video, I'm going to break down the potential landing spots for each one of these running backs based on where they're being mocked. I looked at Grinding the Mocks. Scott showed me this website. It's fantastic. It takes mock drafts from all across the internet and averages pretty much exactly where the player's going. It's not a mode. It's a mean. If you don't know what that means, I mean, okay. It's not where they're being mocked to go to most. It's just the average number between all the mocks. So this isn't telling you exactly what team they're going to go to, but it gives you a good idea of what range they're going to go to in the NFL draft. So I'm taking that number and I'm looking at the teams around it and I'm evaluating those potential landing spots. So we're going to go from the very top to the very bottom. But first, if you're a big fan of Dynasty Fantasy Football and you want to become a better player, go down in the description of the video, join our Dynasty group chat. There's like 350 people in there right now, all talking Dynasty Fantasy Football. Nothing you can do better than go in that group chat and really become a better player. But we're going to talk about the first running back, the consensus RB1 if you look across mock drafts, and that is Deandre Swift. I know a lot of people have Deandre Swift as the running back 2 in fantasy football, at least. But if you look at NFL mock drafts where really NFL teams value passing in the passing game for a running back more than their rushing ability. So Deandre Swift is pretty much the best in the class when it comes to that. And in my opinion, that kind of makes him foolproof. I know we want to see these running backs go to great offenses, but if you can catch the ball and you can excel in that part of the game, I'm not too concerned about you landing on a poor offense if you're going to be able to get 3-down work. So if we look at Deandre Swift and his pretty much average of pick 35, he has a lot of good teams around him. If he goes in this range, I think it will be a very good outcome for Deandre Swift. We see the Kansas City Chiefs picking at 32 overall, and if this happens, obviously, this is a dream. Deandre Swift skyrockets up everyone's dynasty rankings. He is the consensus RB1, number 1 player overall in every rookie draft, and he is a first-round startup pick. Don't know how likely it is, but it is in the range of outcomes. Probably the second best running back landing spot, in my opinion, the Indianapolis Colts pick at 34. I could easily see them taking Deandre Swift. They really have no investment into the running back position. I know a lot of people are excited about Marlon Mack. I recently drafted Nyheim Hines in a startup just because we know Phillip Rivers loves to check down the ball. So if Deandre Swift is running behind one of the league's best offensive lines with a quarterback who loves to dump passes off to the running back, I think that will be a dream scenario for Deandre Swift, and he will be my 1.01 in any format if this happens. Now, a team that I am confident is going to take a running back in the first couple rounds of this year's draft is the Miami Dolphins. And now this is where it kind of gets in a little complicated when evaluating the Miami landing spot. Like I said earlier, with Deandre Swift, I'm not necessarily worried about him landing on a team that has a bad offensive line and a bad offense in general, just because he's going to provide passing game ability. So if he's on the Miami Dolphins, I don't think really Jordan Howard is going to keep him off the field too much. I think Deandre Swift will slide in, be a 3-down running back, and I think that will actually be a good landing spot for Deandre Swift just because the volume he'll get. Now, there are 2 landing spots that stick out as really bad landing spots, and I don't know, a lot of Dynasty players are going to hear this and say, oh, that's not an option. They would never do that. But I'm telling you right now, it is. If you look at these mock drafts, if you look at how these teams are acting, both of these teams are in the market for a running back in this NFL draft. First off, the Detroit Lions. I know a lot of people love Kerryon Johnson. I loved Kerryon Johnson at one point. He is an extremely talented running back, and he is actually still very young. He came into the NFL at 20 years old, which a lot of people don't know. But if you look at it, he's never been extremely productive in Detroit, and he's dealt with injuries all the way dating back to high school. So he can't stay on the field, and he really hasn't put together a great season for Detroit. I can easily see them going out and taking running back, but at the same time, Kerryon Johnson is extremely talented, so I think if a running back lands here, it's going to hurt their value just because I think the two running backs will eat into each other. Now, the second spot, now this will be particularly bad for Deandre Swift, is the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the spot would be horrible just because of Austin Eckler, his passing game ability. I think that they would look at Deandre Swift and say, you can be our early down running back. Austin Eckler is going to be in there for about half the snaps. Maybe Deandre Swift is only in there for 40% for his rookie year. But we know Austin Eckler is an extremely talented running back, but they did just lose Melvin Gordon. And I know we don't really think much about Melvin Gordon, but if you talk to the average NFL fan, people love him. They think he's still extremely talented. So the Los Angeles Chargers could look at this and say, hey, we have a hole if the number one running back in the draft falls us, so we're happy to take him here. Now, let's move on, and let's talk about Jonathan Taylor, who, in my opinion, has the highest ceiling of any running back in this draft class. Obviously, he's the freak athlete. He's the running back who had pretty much the best production profile of anybody in this class, and there are some interesting spots for him. He's going about pick 40 in the NFL draft, so at the beginning of the second round, just like Deandre Swift. And I think the clear number one spot for Jonathan Taylor would obviously be the Indianapolis Colts. They pick at 34 and 44, so right in this range. And like I said with Deandre Swift, this would be a dream spot for Jonathan Taylor. With Jonathan Taylor, he's an extremely great running back, but I don't know how elusive he is. But if he runs behind a offensive line that is near the top of the league, I think we could see a similar season to like Derrick Henry. I think Jonathan Taylor would have number one overall running back potential if he lands in a situation like that. Now let's move on. Another great spot would be Tampa Bay at 45. This would also be a dream spot, especially since they do not have a passing game. They don't have a passing game running back. So what this says about Jonathan Taylor is he may not be the best pass catcher, but he's efficient enough while he does it. So I think that they would make him a 3-down running back. And this is another scenario where I could see Tampa Bay ending up taking Jonathan Taylor and making him a first-round startup dynasty pick. Now, at Pittsburgh, 49 overall. This would be a good spot. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it just because the presence of James Conner, but I really expect this Pittsburgh offense to bounce back, and if they're willing to take Jonathan Taylor here at 49, which I've seen them mock to do multiple times, I think that really says that they're not worried about James Conner eating into Jonathan Taylor's carries. If they take him here, they're going to be willing to just pretty much hand the ball over to Jonathan Taylor right away. Now, the two bad landing spots in this range for Jonathan Taylor, very similar to Deandre Swift. I think the Los Angeles Chargers would be worst case scenario just because with Austin Eckler there, Jonathan Taylor would essentially have no chance at gaining that 3-down workhorse ability because Austin Eckler is a fantastic running back when it comes to catching the ball. So he's definitely not going to take him off the field there. Now, another spot that I said would be good for Deandre Swift, but I think it would be bad for Jonathan Taylor just because I see Jonathan Taylor more as a running back that needs to be on an efficient offense and needs to be behind a good offensive line. And the Miami Dolphins at 39 could easily see them taking Jonathan Taylor, and I would not like that for his dynasty value. Now, J.K. Dobbins, we all know, he pretty much does it all. He is very electric. We didn't get to see him test this offseason, but we do have his testing numbers from a couple seasons ago, and he's a great athlete. He can really do everything. I kind of see J.K. Dobbins as a good running back, good at everything, bad at nothing, great at pretty much nothing either. So I think J.K. Dobbins, he has the potential to be a 3-down running back. I think he could be a low-end RB1. And similar to Jonathan Taylor, a lot of his landing spots are very similar. He's being picked at pick 50 on average. And we see Pittsburgh at 49, Tampa Bay at 45. In the most interesting spot, which I think this is the only scenario where J.K. Dobbins becomes the number one running back drafted in fantasy. And this is the Baltimore Ravens at 55. If he's taken by Baltimore, the league's most efficient offense, just think about it. Running with Lamar Jackson, that is the easiest running back job in the NFL. And I know Mark Ingram is about 30 years old. He still looked very good last season, but anybody's going to look good while they're running next to Lamar Jackson. So if J.K. Dobbins lands here at 55, he will probably be my RB1 unless something crazy happens. Now, there are some obvious bad landing spots for J.K. Dobbins as well. The Jets pick at 48. I would hate it because I think they're ready to move on from Le'Veon. But the problem with landing in New York is just the offense is going to be bad. We don't want him running there. The Rams at 52. I know a lot of people would actually get excited about the Rams, but I'm still a believer in Darrell Henderson. He was one of the most explosive and efficient running backs in college last season. So I think Darrell Henderson is definitely going to have a role in that team, especially with the Los Angeles Rams trading up for him last offseason. Now we see at 54, a team that I know a lot of people aren't expecting to go running back, but I'm here to tell you that it's entirely possible, and I think it might be likely. The Buffalo Bills pick at 54, and I know they just took Devin Singletary in the 3rd round last season, and I know that Devin Singletary looked very good his rookie season. But there's a reason that they never gave him a full workload, and it was not because of 36, 37-year-old Frank Gore. It's because Devin Singletary is small and concerning small. I don't think he's going to be able to hold up to a full workload. I think the Buffalo Bills know this, and they want to have a running back by committee in Buffalo. Now let's move on to Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. We're going to get through these next 2 running backs a lot faster. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, dream spots. Baltimore Ravens, 55 and 60. Miami, 56, because I think Clyde Edwards-Hilaire has the pass-catching ability, so I think that he would be able to perform on a bad offense. And Kansas City, 63. Now, obviously, Baltimore, Kansas City is going to skyrocket his value. Miami's not really going to do much for it, but there are 2 obvious bad landing spots here as well. There are the Los Angeles Rams, which I just discussed, and a sneaky bad landing spot, which I think this is another team people don't expect to go running back, but it's possible. The Seattle Seahawks. Rashad Penny just tore his ACL. Chris Carson has fumbling concerns at the end of his rookie contract and also dealt with a serious injury last offseason. If they go running back, I think that's really going to hurt everyone in that backfield. Now, the most polarizing running back in this class, in my opinion, Cam Akers being mocked to go at 68. And there's some good landing spots. And Cam Akers, I think he's a good pass catcher. So I'm not really worried about him landing behind a bad offensive line. I think he'll be able to produce regardless of what offense he's on, as long as he's going to be able to get the opportunity. So good places for him to land. The Dolphins at 70. I've mentioned them a lot in this video. The Indianapolis Colts at 75. Obviously, dream spot. And Tampa Bay at 76. If he can find himself on one of these 3 teams, I think that would be good for his fantasy value. 3 bad spots. Washington Redskins, 66. I know a lot of people still like Darius Guice, similar to Kerryon Johnson, but the team obviously does not believe in him by selecting Bryce Love a lot earlier than a lot of people thought he was going to go last offseason, by going out, keeping Adrian Peterson, by going out and signing the running back from Tampa Bay. Not really excited about Darius Guice's future. Now, Detroit, 67, just like I said earlier. Chargers, 71. I don't want to see a running back land with the Chargers just because Austin Eckler is definitely going to have a role on that team, especially after getting a new contract. But thanks so much, guys. We're all looking forward to the NFL draft. Really hope that our players go where we want to see them land. And yeah, if you enjoy Dynasty Fantasy Football, if you want to become a better player, not only subscribe to the channel, but go down below and join the Discord. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.